Well, hello, and aloha, y'all. Chauntel Busche here from Modern Marketing. How is everybody doing on this fabulous day? I have with me today somebody who is just an extra special guest, Mr. Jacob R. Miles. Jacob R. Miles is not just a business partner of mine. He is like the mentor of all mentors for me. I'm just learning so much from him. Jacob is a media and entertainment and toy analyst. He's also an award-winning entrepreneur. And so welcome. Welcome, Jacob. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, very good. Thank you for having me on the show. I really was excited about coming and talking with you today.
Yes, we don't talk enough, huh? Do we? Well, I wanted people to kind of get to know you a little bit before we kind of dive into so many questions that I have for you and just so many topics that we want to cover. But, something that, I'm speaking from the heart when I say this too as well, hearing your story and, where you came from and where you are today and just that path and that journey that you took to get to where you are. I'd like you to share a little bit about yourself because, like a lot of my viewers know already, or friends of mine or business colleagues know that I've been through, a lot of trauma in my life. I've had a lot of challenges and have not been dealt the best hand of cards all the time. But it's people right now with what they're going through during this COVID-19 thing. It's hitting a lot of people hard. And so I think it's important to kind of, share our own personal stories. And in this case, your story of how you got through tough times and where you are today.
Well, clearly, I think that tough times can be very, very inspirational and aspirational. Me in particular, I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the housing projects in Cincinnati, a place they call Millville. Housing project still exists today in one of the
Yeah.
poorest communities in Cincinnati, Ohio, and but not different from other poor communities all across this nation and throughout the world, whereby your exposure is very, very limited. And so you're exposed to what your immediate environment is. And But rising above that really comes to how do you get exposure beyond your immediate environment?
Yeah.
Well, in my case, it was mentors, it was my family, and reading. So I think that those things kind of led to my getting exposure to other styles that at the time I thought were, wow, these people must be rich. I found out later on that that really wasn't what rich was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rich was something way beyond that.
Yeah.
But so I went on through mentors and help of others, became an engineer and eventually operations executive and an entrepreneur.
Yeah. No, that is amazing. And I think again, I think it's an encouragement for a lot of people that not just with the COVID-19 thing happened, but people who just aren't as fortunate as maybe others are, or they're living in an area that is a little bit more rural and there's not a lot of resources there for them. And so it is very encouraging to hear stuff like that.
Hmm.
And to talk about some of your successes. And here's the thing, I don't like to name drop or anything like that, but I don't mind name dropping for other people when it comes to their stuff. So you are responsible. You're on the team that worked with George Lucas to take a little company called Star Wars to market with their line. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because
Well, I
listen, I'm a nerd about that. Okay, I'm a nerd about that kind of stuff.
well, I'm a Star Wars nerd, a Star Wars fan, a Star Wars collector, and I'm honored to say one of the original Star Wars toy engineers at Kenner Products. Um, I remember the day specifically. Our CEO was Bernie Loomis, and Bernie. called a meeting for us to come down to look at a new potential project. And when we got downstairs to the R&D department, there was George Lucas uh, and a couple of his associates, and then we had pulled a team together to uh, look at and talk about the Star Wars, which what at that point was a script and some sketches and things of that nature. But to make a long story short, we end up putting some money up for the movie. George had been having some problems raising money for the movie. Can you believe that?
That
Uh, but no one knew or that it would be what it is today.
Did you have a
So
feeling, not to cut you off, but when you were seeing the process of all this happening, was there anything inside of you was like, I feel like they're onto something with this? Or were you doubting it too as well? Or
well, I definitely wasn't doubting it, but you have to put things in perspective. At that time, we were riding high already. We had the number one TV show in toys in America,
yeah,
and that was $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman.
yeah,
And so we were making those toys, and they were flying off the shelves. So the Star Wars thing was okay. All right, let me get off a $6 Million Man and come and look at this new thing, you
yeah,
know. And it was obviously out there, but nonetheless, $6 Million Man with his bionic arm and all this stuff that was out there too. But we liked it. Matter of fact, everybody liked it, and so the deal was subsequently done, and we all began working on the development of the ships and the toys, and making sure that what in the film could translate into play value in a toy, and building that into the script. So
gotcha.
that was very, very exciting, and I just absolutely love George. I still work with Lucasfilm on Tuskegee Airmen, which is one of my clients, and very excited and always enjoyed working with the Lucasfilm folks.
Well, I'm jealous, but not really, because now I work with you too as well. So I have to say, I have thrown cool points to myself right now, which doesn't happen very often.
hmm
And so are you noticing, and I'm sure a lot of people listen, if anybody is shopping on Amazon or online right now, and I'm talking directly to the camera right now because I'm even having an issue finding toys right now. Like I can't find puzzles, I can't find specific toys or even outdoor toys because everybody's stuck in their house. And now more than ever, people are getting, board games and cornhole for outside in their yard and stuff like that. And or if they do have it, I'm waiting like over a month to get it. So,
hmm
so
hmm
what are your thoughts on kind of everything that's going on with the COVID thing and how it correlates with the games in the gaming industry, video games even?
Well, when you look at trends in the media entertainment toy industry,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them are born out of uh, things like this, disruptions in our normal behavior. And this COVID-19 is exactly that. It's a huge disruption in our normal behavior. So, given that it focuses us back in on the home, it usually leads more to your family type of games. Obviously, video games are just going crazy. But like you say, puzzles, board games, card games, even things you can play in your yard like horseshoes,
Yeah,
bocce ball.
yeah,
I even saw there people buying hula hoops, and things of that nature. But you're going to see more and more of those things. Chalk, uh, um,
chop chop.
jacks. You know, it's amazing to see what has happened as a result of this, but it is bringing the families together and is bringing them together around gaming, traditional, and video game.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you because I'm doing the same thing. Like I said, I bought croquet. I mean, because I'm there and I was looking for cornhole and I was like, croquet. I never had a desire, but I never been so excited about croquet in my life because it was just another thing for the family to do. And
Hmm. Hmm.
how do you feel like where the toys were from the time that you started until now, and that whole evolution of them, and
Hmm.
you're talking about trends and how things like this having like a something like a COVID situation happen, how
Hmm.
there's an influx in different things, but as
Right.
far as the evolution of the toys from then until now,
Hmm.
um, what do you think are some of the positive things that are coming of it? Because sometimes people are saying, "Oh, I hate these video games," or "I hate that and this," and it's simply, video games had like a bad rap for a bit there too as well, but it's evolving and it means something different now. So,
Hmm.
what can
Hmm.
you speak to that?
Well, I think that the negativity that has been historically expressed regarding video games was due to the uh, amount of violence that's in video games. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you have the human simulated killing, you have video games that have just graphic blood splatter and uh, heads being chopped off, all this kind of stuff. That's what the moms and that's what the educators were all responding to, and saying, "Hey, that's not something I want my kid to be interacting with on a daily basis." But when you look at the history of of toys and gaming and so forth, you can parallel it with things like comic books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Comic books used to be very, very GP, very general.
Yeah.
Then comic books got racier and more violence showed up in them, and as they evolved in their path. But video games have done the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think uh, mechanisms come into play to protect the public, just as they did in films. Films have taken that same evolutionary path, and that's why your rating systems came into play in the films. Well, guess what? The rating systems came into play in the games.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so there's always mechanisms to deal with that. But in a country where you have free speech and free expression uh, and and free will, you're going to have those sorts of things. And the key is to utilize them for good, utilize them for STEM programs and STEAM programs, understanding how video games can help those at-risk kids, those kids that's not getting exposure, help them understand what's behind the game, the types of jobs and career opportunities that are behind the toys and behind the games. Because in many instances, the kids don't realize what it takes to make those products. Kids don't realize, in using a sports analogy, uh, what it takes for there to be a Michael Jordan or a LeBron James. They. I always say to the kids when I speak to them in schools, and they ask me about LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and so forth, and I said, well, would you rather be him, or would you rather be the man that pays him? If you think they're making a lot of money, how much do you think the guy that's paying him is making?
That's right.
And the look on their face is like they can't even comprehend what I'm saying. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they never thought about that. So that's that exposure that I was speaking to earlier.
Yeah. No, and that's awesome. And I like that because it allows kids to see a much bigger picture and gets them to understand that like nobody gets to the top by themselves as where too. And even though you're seeing this one mega star in something, no
Mhm.
matter what industry that they're in, that there is hundreds or thousands of people or
That's right
millions of
behind them.
people, so as far as even fans or supporters that are lead up to their successes. And Yeah. And so also too, as well, as far as gaming goes, and I know that obviously you and I are in the gaming industry together as well.
Hmm.
You know, we do have our company that we're putting together and we'll be launching here shortly. Without giving too much detail, that a lot of stuff is on the DL right now. But a big part of that too is, you know, getting in touch with the communities and again with the gaming industry. I mean, you've got kids out there that not only come from, you know, the more rural areas in the projects, so to speak, or any of those low income or whatever it might be. You
Hmm.
also have kids that have disabilities that wish they could be a part of a league or be a part of a sport, quote unquote, but physically can't participate. Um,
Hmm.
or maybe they've got, you know, autism or something like that that would stop them from playing maybe a traditional game. But man, boy, that can they get on video games, and boy, can they do puzzles, and boy, can they do patterns and sequencing and all these other kinds of things because it works with a specific part of their brain.
Hmm.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about that too, and what you have to say about that.
Well, it is very, very important that gaming, whether it be a board game, it be a video game, that it is inclusive, that it is they are designed so that the whole family can play, even if there's someone with ADD or someone with autism and so forth. The There has to be uh, a play pattern that fits, uh, irregardless of their particular challenge. And I think that is happening a lot today. I'd have to say not as much as I would like uh, in the puzzle area uh, and in the league area of the video game world, and that's part of what we are working to uh, do something about that. But it is very, very critical that we include those kids because those things have a very, very positive impact on their brain development. It
Mhm.
has a very positive impact on their social skills and their ability to communicate their feelings better. Even in the case of where you have nonverbal autism and things like that. Um, that doesn't mean they can't express themselves, but you have to be able to understand those nuances and playing a game, putting together a puzzle, uh, interacting with a video game with them, you can better see those nuances up front and clear and be able to recognize them better in the daily activities that may not be gaming. You
Yeah.
know, so uh, so it's very, very critical, and I'm excited about the future for video games and puzzles
Yeah.
and what they can do to help the more physically and mentally challenged children out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that buzzword, like you said, is all inclusive.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
when you think about a lot of the sports out there, although you and I are both sports fans, and I love sports, and you know we're big Laker fans in my family and whatnot. It's definitely it's all inclusive to a certain extent, but when you're talking about physical and mental, it is not necessarily all inclusive.
Right, right.
And so what I love about it is the mission that is behind gaming now,
Hmm.
that at least we're participating with, and like
Hmm.
hoping to find more people out there. Now, as far as what we're doing with our esports company, what little secrets can you throw out for people that's not going to, you know, let the cat out of the bag completely? Because I'd like to let people know just a little bit more about what we're putting together and with what we're doing, and how they can, you know, they can reach out to me and learn more later or whatever, or keep following us and keeping track on that. But can you at least
Hmm.
why I want you to say first of all why you created this, and then talk a little bit about what it is.
Well, over the last year and a half, I've been doing research on the esports industry, and really trying to get my arms around uh, where it is now and where I envision it going. And so we've been doing a lot of analysis at Mouse Analyst Partners looking at that industry and what are its touch points? How is it impacting the toy industry? How is it impacting the collectibles industry? How is it impacting the Comic Cons? Manga, anime, all of those types of things. And what people don't realize is all of those are uh, connected to the esports industry. So we were doing a research and understanding that. Out of that came Map Esports Network. And Map Esports Network is going to be officially launching in the May-June timeframe. And it is the first full scope network that will have all of the different elements from the magazine to the streaming channels to the broadcast content development to events as well as to merchandise, those collectibles and tabletop games, video games, things of that nature as well. And so our motto at Map Esports Network is if it's about esports, it matters to us. So we're going to cover the full gamut. And our sole purpose is to be there to help build this industry, to encourage and uplift and promote and celebrate the gamers, the sponsors and advertisers, the fans, and to be a voice for them and do what we can to help them grow this industry. So we're very, very excited about that. We're very, very excited to also to have you as the editor-in-chief of the magazine, Esports Futuri, the future of esports. So we're very excited about that as well.
Yes, and this is global.
Yes. Oh, in fact, in America, United States, we're behind. I was on a call today with a gentleman from China, and when you look at where China is, where Korea is, where Europe is, they have a lot of the infrastructure in place to grow their industry that we don't have here in the United States yet. We're going to be a big part at Maps Esports Network to providing that infrastructure, but we've got some catching up to do. The greatest part about that is that they're using our technology that's out of Silicon Valley. They're using our video games from EA Sports and Activision Blizzard and Riot Games and all the different gaming companies. So we've got the players here and we've got the fans here, and now we just got to grow that audience.
Absolutely. And again, what I love about it, it is, when I say all inclusive, I mean, we're talking all the countries too, as well. I mean,
no question.
I think what I love about gaming is the fact that you can connect with people in other countries, like, other traditional toys or games and things like that that are out there. I mean, everything is so internet based. And
it really is.
And it was neat. I'd like you to tell a little bit about the story about how you were there when the first gaming system was being done. Was it Atari?
Well, yeah, it is a great story. I always say that the reason I have these stories is because, I'm old, but
You can say that a lot. Yeah. I hear it every day, folks. I hear it every day. Well,
but yeah, and again, it goes back to my days at Kenner, and we were doing handheld games, electronic games. We are also doing a Space Invaders, which is one of Atari's games, arcade game that you set on the table and you could shoot with and so forth and play with. And Nolan Bushnell, who's legendary, he's like the Stan Lee of video games, as Lucas is the I'll call him the Stan Lee of of space films now.
Yeah.
But Nolan was doing an event at a mall, a competition,
Mhm.
and it was Atari on the new Atari hardware platform and the Space Invaders game. And he invited several of the engineers at Kenner who was working with him to come out and be a part of this event. And so I was one of those engineers, and so I went out and as his guest at this event. I did not come to know that that was being reported in the esports history as the first esports event. So when I was doing my research and I saw that recorded there, I went, "Oh my goodness, I really do feel old now."
He don't act old though. Don't let him fool you. He'll
Yeah.
do circles around me real easy. That is just so neat, and to have all these stories, and it just goes to show too. I mean, not only do you really know your stuff, but you've lived it, and you have this personal conviction about everything that you're doing, and the knowledge behind you to back it up, and the experience to back it up, and that I now that I've gotten to know you so well, and I see that bigger mission, right? That greater mission.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
almost like you go through all these things in your life, and then you get to a point where you're like, okay, I gotta now, knowing what I know now with the experience that I have, what do I do with this to
Right.
better the world? And
Hmm.
so I admire you for that, and I'm so happy to be working with you in partnership on all these amazing things. This is going to be history for me one day when somebody else will be interviewing me in the future, and I'll say, well, Jacob R. Miles back
Yeah.
in 2020, him and I got partnered up, and we did our first
Well,
esports.
the defining moment for us, of course, and for many of us out here today, is we'll be looking back and said, "Well, do you remember COVID-19? When COVID-19 was going on, here's
Yeah,
where were you and what were you doing during COVID-19?" You
work
know,
nuts
and
up. That's
we'll be
what
able
we.
to talk about its pivotal role and the acceleration of the growth of esports, the acceleration and the growth of families coming closer together. You know, the acceleration and the growth of people realizing that we don't have but one planet and we're all here together, uh, and we've got to do things sometimes to protect each other
Mm-hmm.
as well as ourselves, because most of us are not sick. Most of us do not have the virus,
Yep.
but what we're doing is to protect others,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously protect yourself as well. But so
Yep.
I think those are going to be some of the guiding principles and some of the things that are going to impact us going forward. I think that for a little while, you won't see very many virus based video games and movies.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be a little bit of a turnoff. And what's so funny is like recently, specific TV shows and movies had just launched and come out about
Yeah,
viruses.
right.
Like, what are the chances of that one? I mean, good Lord.
Well,
Well,
once it's over and we get about 6 months down, 3 to 6 months down the road, they'll bring those movies back.
yeah, yeah, I think so too as well. And in closing, and before we wrap things up, and this is something even, we're on meetings pretty much every day together.
Yes.
and and I want to talk about all the stuff behind you for just a few minutes here before we exit this video chat here with everyone.
Hmm.
I want to talk about some of the stuff you got up on your wall and on your the chest there, and then that head that's in the corner over there. Is that it looks like you.
It's not me. It is uh, sculpture, obviously, by a Minneapolis artist who's very famous in the area. I used to be arts commissioner for the city of Minneapolis.
Of course you did.
Uh, and it is titled White Black Man.
That's legit.
Now,
It's being all inclusive.
and so uh, I took a great interest in it because my first trip to China, I lived in Hong Kong for a while, and my first trip to China was with Kenner Toys, of course, and um, and I was there. I was in my suit and all of this stuff, and going into the factories, and they had, this is in the '70s, so they had not experienced a black man from America before
Mm-hmm.
doing what I was doing at the executive level. And so they called me Haguelo. And Haguelo is
Not a pig, is it?
black white man.
Oh, okay.
It's black white man.
That is
Now,
funny.
if you talk to, that's what Chinese say when they're being nice. What it really means is black is uh, is black, white, foreign devil. It really means Guelo means foreign devil, but when they put the ha on it, that means black. So
Oh my God,
so
that
they
is
said
so
black white man, and so that reminded me of that. I said, okay, I got to have that.
Oh yeah, you have to have
I
that.
got to have it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, no
other
question.
stuff back there is we were talking about board games. The piece. Let's see, get my pointing right. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't see your hand, but that's okay.
Uh,
Oh, yeah, there you go.
there.
Yes, that one.
That one is from mergers and acquisition we did when we Tonka bought Kenner Parker, and it's a monopoly board
I see it.
of the transaction and of the deal done by Shearson Lehman. Above that is my IPO. I did an IPO for Urban Cool Network, which
Uh-huh.
was a internet network like AOL,
Yes.
uh, and some of the other things there are Wall Street Journal articles, USA Today articles, Entrepreneur of the Year award stuff, and some of my toys.
That's so cool. What? Okay, and I'll ask you one more thing before I bother you more about the stuff behind you. What's that red thing?
That is a handheld electronic racing game from the '70s. As
Oh,
that we did at Kenner, and that's what we were working on at the time of the Atari and Nolan Bushnell. That one, and I've got a couple other different ones around here. There's a football game, a racing game, a baseball game, and so forth. But
neat.
I could drag out collectible toys for days.
Okay, yeah, okay. One last thing, and I'll stop bothering you. Well, I'm not
Hmm.
gonna stop bothering you, but I'm gonna go over one last thing.
Okay.
I want you to just talk a little bit about collectibles and and where how they were back then, what is a great value now from the toys back then, and what should people be collecting right now that could potentially be worth a lot of money.
Well, I tell you, it is amazing what is happening in the collectibles market now. And I'd say that the hottest areas now are the '70s.
Yeah.
The '70s are just unbelievably hot. But and the collectors are the not only the young kids now. When I say young kids, I'm talking 25, to 40.
Yeah.
But you're also 50, 60-year olds are big collectors as well.
Mhm.
Star Wars, off the chain collectors. There are Sotheby's and Christie's are doing Star Wars toys auctions now. That tell you how the pricing on those have changed.
And what okay, so give me an example of how much a toy, one of your specific toys that I know you have like all of them, but like what is your most prized possession that you have that's a collectible?
Oh, oh my God.
You have to pick one. The house is on fire, and you got to save one, like Indiana Jones style, and you got to grab that toy, and you got to run out with
Well,
it.
I grab an armful, but I would have to say it's one that I know no one else in the world has. and that's I have a white Darth Vader bust.
Okay, that's
And that was given to me by the team, George Lucas and the team, because I asked the question, why did the bad guy have to be a black guy? And use James Earl Jones' voice.
uh,
So he said, made the stormtroopers white, you know, you know.
you're right.
But so Bob, my team made me a white Darth Vader bust and gave it to me before a meeting, and so I would say that's my most prized one. But I love my '70s Star Wars figures still in the case. Some of them have coins with them when we did coin collections with them,
Uh,
and some of those go as high as $10,000-$20,000.
what I want to know is how much you think that bust would be worth. Not that you'd ever sell it. I feel like that would
Let's just say I've turned down six figures.
Really? I would too. I would turn down six figures.
Yeah, I mean it's personal.
That's not a,
You know, yeah, exactly. Now that don't mean that it doesn't have a price now, but it has to be. It had to be in the seven figures.
It would have to be in the seven figures. Yeah, you ain't
Yes.
dumb either. Here's the thing: you also ain't dumb. Well,
Yep.
thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know we've got big projects happening right now, and but this was important to me, and this is just like the very start. And another way, honestly, that for us to document our journey.
Yes.
With the process of all this. So I want to do this on a somewhat regular basis, maybe like once a month. We shoot a little video updating people on the evolution of everything that's happening and going on. I just think it would be neat to just have in the archives, even just for my personal use, and to show my kids one day.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Yes. So again, thank you to everyone out there that took the time out to check out this video and learn more about Jacob R. Miles III and me, Chauntel Busche, who's not that exciting. So I apologize for that, but I'm working really hard on that.
Yeah.
And we look forward to see you guys next time. And everybody have a blessed day. Thank you again, Jacob.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.